Okay, my name is Margus Ernits. Is my mic on or? Not really. Okay, now it's better. No. Should be. It's not on mute. Okay. I'm talking about kind of security. I'm talking about the people and educating people. How many of you have seen this? Nobody. Few people. Actually, hackers don't want you to see this. They want to be hidden. We don't. If you see this, we are. Then we are there. And how many of you are developers? How many of you are like system engineers or sysadmins? How many of you are leading teams? Very few. And security guys. Wow. Today's talk about developers, but not only. My name is Margus Ernits. I'm a CTO of RangeForce. I was lecturer at Estonian IT College a long time. I lead the robotics club, 10 years there. I started with soldering electronic details and soldered my first computer at age 15. Started programming after that. And I have education in cybersecurity. I graduated system development in IT College and cybersecurity in joint curriculum in Tartu and Tallinn. I have unique experience to learning in all Estonian schools that teach cybersecurity somehow. That was really good time for me. And about RangeForce, we established the company 2014. In 2015, we went into New York to participate in Techstars accelerator. We got back and we didn't understand why they chose us, because we didn't have anything. But we got there, and now we have something. About cybersecurity. I will not speak about cybersecurity much, most about people and how to educate people. My background is education. You all know that cybersecurity engineers, there are few in Estonia available. Raise your hand if you have cybersecurity engineers in the company, more than 10. Nobody. Oh, you have. That's interesting. And how many of you will try to find cybersecurity engineer? Nobody. Nobody. And how many of you dealing with cybersecurity in your company? Nobody. Who cares about cybersecurity then?
Everybody.
Okay. How many of you have continuous delivery and continuous integration in place and regular deployments? Okay. And how often do you do that? Once per week, or per day, or per hour, or per month? Renno, what you said? Per minute. Okay. And your security team does security tests for each of this release per minute?
We have hired hackers.
Okay.
But we don't know about releases.
Okay. You don't know releases. Yeah, you don't have releases. You don't have ones. Okay, and if you want to deploy your code very rapidly, but you still need to care about security, how you can ensure that? What are the mechanisms? You spoke about white hackers.
Yes.
You use external hackers to test your security regularly.
Yes.
How many of companies do that? Few. And how you can be sure that your developers deploy something that is secure or somehow secure? Okay, how you educate your computer users? Do you have computer users in companies? Do you use some security awareness programs or not? Use? Do you? And how about developers? How security education is taken or given to them? Raise your hand, security courses, classroom courses, yeah. And online courses, who do them? Okay, much more. Who participated in cybersecurity in universities, in courses? Okay, much better. And who listened to this talk when Mika Hypanen said that education never works in IT college? The talk was in IT college. Okay, you remember that? That's good. And there is something in education that doesn't work. When we teach cybersecurity, we usually use lecturing, practical classes, hands-on classes. Some teaching assistant will help you to do something. You do homework, home reading, nothing new. But the problem in cybersecurity is the same like in other fields. It's really hard to learn it. And why? Because the most usual ways of the learning doesn't work at all. And I got the idea that I will build a system that solves every problem in the world, absolutely. And I built that system, and of course it solves every problem in the world, but except those I wanted to. And now we have a brilliant system that emulates computer users and hackers and provides you learning environment. You can log in and learn cybersecurity. There is only few issues, like actually you don't have time for learning. Why is that? Raise your hand if you did some learning instead of working in this week. That's very good. How many of you did courses in some universities? Few. And one way to learn about cybersecurity is find out some CTF and participate. There is a different type of CTFs. Who don't know what is a CTF, raise your hand. Okay, capture the flag. Like sandbox, you can log into some web application, try to achieve some flag or treasure from web application, and learn during the process. That's the CTF. There is a different types of the CTFs. One type is you just try to think like a hacker, break in and use this system. Another type is like attack defense CTF. You need to protect something. It's much harder because breaking in, it's easy comparing with protecting. And there is a lot of systems you can find from the internet. You can try your security knowledge, you can learn. We did some cybersecurity events around the world. We created a system where participants can learn during hands-on cybersecurity exercise, small ones. And it has gamification elements like leaderboards, scoreboards, media injects, videos, everything necessary to create some real action and make you think and struggle with the system. It worked well. We run those events around the world in 10 different countries. Almost everybody liked it who participated. Your website got defaced. You start digging from the log files what happened. You try to find vulnerabilities and fix them. But really, is it helpful? I know that some people participate at those events. When we ask learners feedback, it's almost using the simple rule. If you did something and you got some points, then you like it. If you didn't achieve anything, you don't like it. It doesn't relate anyhow how much you learned. There should be some other methods to measure real learning during this process. And for example, some persons didn't get any points from the exercise, didn't achieve anything. What it means? It means that maybe he or she actually learned a lot comparing with previous experience. And somebody who did everything well didn't learn at all. Even points doesn't give any clue what you are learned, or are you learned something or not. And when I try to measure effectiveness of the learning, it's hard like a hell. And why? When I ask feedback from the user, it's very easy to achieve. It's completely useless information, but gives us a lot of information. Does our system works or not? Not about how much people learn. For example, if people will stop in the same place in different actions or different missions and give bad feedback, maybe this place is the problem. I will look at it and find out what to do. But it don't give any information how much they learned and how helpful our system is. About learning, we can measure before learning and after learning. We did that. The problem with that is that it takes a lot of time. You do 4-hour torture before the course and the same after the course. We have seen a great improvement in the skill level and everything. Everything is super awesome, like our US partner says that. But it doesn't mean that we can't do better. And what we want to achieve that the learners' behaviors change, that they will think more about the code and about fixing the system. And we can't measure this in our system. We measure this using the clients, and they give us feedback, and they set up programs inside the company how to measure really behavioral change. For example, we measured 30 people in one company. It was a really big company, actually. And there was more than thousands of developers. But we did small pilot there and measured before and after, and they were really happy. And after our program ended, they found a lot of security bugs from the code after that, immediately. And we can say that, yeah, it changes people, but does the company improvement was so that they returned the same money what they spent with us? We can't measure that. today. And before I go on, I will show you how the system looks like, that you understand what I'm talking about. And if you start learning cybersecurity, it's very usual that you go into lecture or training class and get some virtualized environment and start hacking and learning and everything like that. We have cloud-based virtualized environment. There is only web browser necessary. And learning in this environment means that you get a virtual learning assistant that teaches you through the mission. The Wi-Fi is a little bit slow here. And you have game-based like tasks. You have issues. One user said that, oh, computer looks a little bit strange and background is changed. If I go to this computer, I will see that, yes, that's true. Something has happened in that computer. If you see this in some computer in your company, what you do? What you would do? Press OK, yeah. And to make sure that user is very satisfied, I suggest that you change this the screenshot. You even can explain that it doesn't solve the problem completely, but user is happy that because everything is the same like previously. And that's where learning takes place. You have this virtual teaching assistant and something else. This something else is, we call it dashboard. In real life, you don't have this dashboard. For example, it measures functionality of your services and vulnerabilities. You can't get real information in real life about your vulnerabilities. Nobody will tell you. But in our system, you have much more information about what's happening. And if you go through the incidents and try to solve them, those incidents is automatically graded. It goes green if you achieve something. It goes back to red if you don't. And in the background, our simulated attackers will completely try to deface your websites, take over your infrastructure and Active Directory, create malicious users there and everything like in real life. Except we give feedback, what happens there. And you have special access to secret hacker chat. They will explain what they do. Sometimes they just complain that, oh, I lost control about Active Directory or something like that. For example, if you reboot the computer, they will complain that, I lost it. But actually, they will get it back when they start attacking again. And everything is simulated. Everything is just you fire the lab and then start the simulation. And there is also a sales portal. Looks like usual website, but yeah, it has a lot of vulnerabilities inside. And that's how we try to educate people. But still, we have something that we can't deliver. And that is, that is the results, how we can be sure that your people learning and actually get better. for protecting those threats, protecting against those threats. And that's the puzzle. And to understand that, we started to digging how people learn, how the brain works, and what we should give to the end user, how we should help them, how we should help learner to understand that they really learn something, not just got the impression of the learning. And very, very interesting things are happening in the learning world. We used to believe that when you are a child, you learn everything very quickly, and if you are older, then you don't. It's not true. It's the same like if you are trained, you can do anything. If you don't, then everything is very hard. Child's brain is trained for learning. You are forgotten about the learning. If you start training again, it will come back. That's something that brain scientists tell us today. It's completely different that we used to believe. And another thing that we already know that everyone is very different. They learn very differently. There is absolutely no one rule that, or one crew or one method you can apply for everyone. There is no one. We have investigated data in our system, and we figured out that from people to people, the difference between the learning activities, how to get the information and how to understand it, the difference is more than 10 times. It's very, very common. And there is also a geographical difference. And it's not because of different people living in different countries, because they expect different things of our system, and we designed a system that are better to understand to some culture room. For example, we don't have big videos and step-by-step how-tos, and this is blocker for some countries, absolute blocker. We have problem-based learning. It doesn't work in every country. And please remember, learning is a skill. It needs to be trained. If you train your learning skill, you get much better. You will learn much faster in new things, and this is something like training. If you don't do this, you're lost. You lost it. Not forever. You can do it again. That's another good thing about brain scientists, that they tell that if we start learn how to learn, we get better. Much better with learning. And actually, do you remember some professors from university times? They tell funny stories and a lot of information that is not tightly related to the topic. Do you remember that? And it's funny because our brain works in that way that we need fun for learning. We need something else. And if we got more information, even this information is not tightly related to this topic, we will remember it much better ways. It's very interesting, actually, how it works. It's not like I expect. And we have different type of memories, and something we need to train is semantic memory. Actually, this type of memory is also basic training, and it's very important that you sleep. There is no way that you can learn a lot and doesn't sleep. It doesn't work that way. It's really important. And our brain works in that way that, like, we have a good library without any indexes. And how to make our brain work in that way that we are remembering things easily and we can retrieve them from the long-term memory much easier. There is several things we can do. First is repeating. You know that you repeat something, you remember it better. That also helps with training about cybersecurity. It doesn't work in that way that you send your people or developers to do the training and they remember that forever. No way they will forget. This means learning is hard. And the second thing is add meaning. That's the trickiest. What it means? It means that you can't just consume information and retrieve it from the memory after that. There is absolutely no point. It doesn't work that way. You need to give meaning of every piece of information. And this means if you see the video lecture and don't pay attention, don't think through the things you see there, you are lost. Don't watch the video training. It doesn't work. Because of that, you just don't think. And the remembering things means that if you don't try to think them or do them or explain them to another people, you will not remember this. There is no way. And it's just participating usual lecture or video lecture. It's imitation of learning. It's nothing related to learning. I know that I have seen what's happening in my lecture if I go to backstage and in the audio guys, and I can see what students do that in the lecture. Lecture is something I don't like. They are completely meaningless in point of learning. The only way give point or meaning or then is to make it interesting, playful. It should be given in that way that you think about the things you heard. And another thing, if I speak something or lecturer speaks something, the people will not remember what lecturer speaks, but what they think in the same time. That's they remember, not speech or words. And the brain works in very interesting ways. For example, if you consume information, your brain activates something in your memory. And there is different things, and the word may have different meanings. And the set of things your brain activates, it differs based on your previous experience and things you learned. For example, those sugar, pepper, salt, they activate something. In some people, they may activate like, oh, salt, yeah, configuration management, or it's related to passwords. Even if you don't think that way, the brain activates those regions. And that's interesting about the learning. And if you get more funny information or even not directly related to this fact, you remember it better. Because of that your brain activates much more than needs necessary. And when you're learning new things, there is different ways you can do that. First, it's very powerful ways try to relate every new piece of some existing piece you know. That's usual learning. More complex learning is how to learn something so new or so different that you don't have any clue about it. Then it's the mechanism should be like that. You try to see different subsystems in the new system you want to learn and relationships between them, and start building a memory map or some model in your mind about the system. That works as well. And very important, each person learns differently, and you have best learning experience in some like morning hours or evening hours. It differs between the people. Try to figure out what works best for you and reserve it for learning. Because if you don't learn, it's like a training, you lost it. You need to do it regularly. Why learning happens? Why people learn? To get some position, salary. What else? Mom said that, yes, you should learn it. For example, there is medical students. They drop out from medical student field is lesser than in others. Why? And studies in States, not in Estonia, figured out that it's because of moms. That's interesting, because this external motivation is so high that they don't drop out. Who knows what those means from Steve Wozniak? Fun, friends, food. Fun is the hacker's motivation of learning new things. It should be fun. You should get something that is playful or fun. And if you have good people in your company, and most of them want to master something, anything, it's music, or it's beekeeping, or it's like some technology. If they want to do that, those people will learn, and their brain works in that way that they're able to learn new things. And the motivation. There were few team leads. And there is a different kind of motivation that influences. Internal motivation. The people who have time and want to learn are internally motivated, it works. But we figured out, based on data in our system, that it doesn't work for programmers. Do you know why?
Because they're not curious about security.
Yeah, but learning a new framework, for example, well, why that doesn't work as well?
You just have to full day at work. You just want to go home and spend some time either away from a computer or gaming or something not related to job. You do from 9 a.m. till...
Who else think like you? Yeah. Actually, that's exactly we have seen based on our data. Developers will learn not at the work time, but after work ends, at weekend, and not at the work. And if we try to figure out why the workload, that's the problem. And even if you don't have pressure from the workload, you got pressure from coworkers that, yeah, you should close this ticket and fix this issue and do that and that. And you're a good and nice person, and you do that. You won't do things you need. You do things that other needs. And this means internal motivation will not work for you if you're a programmer or developer. And external motivation, we have seen it works. When we established some agreements with team leads that they demand results, learning results, present the test results, and they should master those skills, they do it. And team leads will give time and pressure, and they do it, they achieve it. Even if it takes only 2 hours per week. Only 2 hours per week. If there are external motivation from team leads, developers will learn. That's something I didn't expect. But yes, they do. And for team leads, make sure that your people will be better and more skillful. You can always give some time for learning. That's most important thing to do your people, give them time for developing, and also a little bit pressure, because if you give time and no pressure, then it doesn't work as well. It's not external motivator anymore. We have seen that team building events work really well. And that's interesting that learning will take place even if you don't think you're learning something. That's very usual. And if you think that you're learning, reading a book and reading, or watching the video and watching and ignoring it, doesn't work. It's imitation of learning. If you do something, then you learn something. And for developers, if you set your personal goals and speak about those goals to other people, to get pressure from other people, that helps a lot with learning. And if somebody asked that I will speak about security, not at all. I will speak about learning and people developing. It's always people that's important. Thank you. And if you have questions, I have time. Yep.
Thank you very much. How will this awareness program help to prevent APT attacks? Because what educate people now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because if you get some training, some piece of training in one person, it doesn't prevent anything. If you repeat this training for this person and repeat this training for other person, it may prevent something. Yeah. And APT, it's actually the best case when usually cybersecurity measures won't help you. They will not find or pop up that you have security issue or virus found. It's silent. And the computer users, they are helpful. If they say that something strange happening in my computer, please look at it. Something weird happening. I did something idiotic, I will say that. And that's also another issue with cybersecurity people, that when they are really arrogant and try to punish people because they click on something, then they will not get any information if user really clicked on something. And that's one thing, if you are security people, try to avoid. And APT is just something you can't protect using some technologies. You can find it easily, not easily, but much easier way if your users are in some level of degree. And another thing, for example, people who use computers for work and don't try to do fancy things like clicking on every link, this also helps. And because of this in Finland, for example, malware infection rate is lower than Eastern in Europe. But yeah, state-sponsored hackers will get you. They are good.
Basically, you're saying that creating such a transparent environment in the company is a basis for this defense. If the communication is
Yeah,
fine,
trust, communication, and yeah, that's you are in much better situation. In usual, data breach will discovered after 100 days, and this means if you are good users who will notice something and will explain and will try to understand what happened, then it's much better. Yeah.
How do you raise the importance of the cybersecurity in the company? Because everybody knows that it's important, but it's like behind others.
I don't know. If I have this information, I already in Hawaii or something.
Well, besides hiring Margus,
Yeah.
hiring a hacker to actually do it, this will raise the company perception. I mean,
Yes, if this hacker will educate the users and try to educate the users, not insult them, then yes, yeah, then it works in that way. But yes, we have seen that our training is both not for developers. We have a lot of web application development missions, not only Windows Defense. And the reason is that developers don't, or organization or developer unit doesn't have money for security. And budget is inside the security organization in security departments, and they want just more security people, and they want only security-related missions from us. Yeah, that's the problem we have actually, and I don't answer. I don't know the answer.
When you educate management companies, how much it differs compared to normal people? Is there something special about you that you like more than others, overlike or whatever? How you approach management? Maybe also with methodics also.
I'm not the best person to answer that. We have very good sales leader in States, and they know how to do that. I only imagine that how it may.
Like selling your business. I mean, how you educate them differently.
We don't have any education for leaders today. That's the issue actually, because usually we do cybersecurity exercise inside the company, and the leaders will see what happens, and they are interested and they are happy with that usually. But we don't have training for them today. Yeah.
But they make decisions. The most decisions are made by them.
Yeah, I know. And we got also asks from different clients that yes, our security team and IT team performed well in last training, but decision makers failed. Not the training, but in real data breach, yeah, decision makers are the weakest link. Yes, I know that. But it's, yeah, for us, me as a developer and making such kind of games that involve technology and servers, it's much more interesting. I didn't pay attention for that field, but it's my mistake. I will correct this. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a simple question from the lecturer viewpoint. As a lecturer, I think you learn as well, because as you mentioned, you teach some topic or subject for 5 years, and I believe during this period you find some mistakes maybe in your lectures as a lecturer and so on. Have you ever experienced it? And if you have, how do you excuse yourself because, oh my God, I teach wrongly?
Actually, it's a good question, because trying to teach something and give like lecturing to others, it also like one method of learning. It's much more effective than any other method. If you don't know something, go to lecturing, you will learn something, yes. And that's true that when I went to teach, I worked in Swedbank 7 years. After that, I saw in my lectures some people who administrated the Unix machines 20 years or something. It's okay that they are smarter than me, and I'm okay with that.
If I can just add on this, it's funny because I'm Canadian, but I live in the Czech Republic, and I was very surprised to learn in many Slavic language, teaching and learning is the same word. In many Slavic language, in Russian is the same word, in Czech is the same word. So for Czechs, teaching and learning, for them it's the same mechanic. They have the same verb. They don't have a reverse direction of where the information is coming to. For them, it's the same experience for both the teacher and the student.
And actually,
it's the same word.
And actually, it is the same experience.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm wondering about the external motivation versus internal motivation, because and I have a question in my mind whether the profile of your participants is somewhat similar, because when I think about cybersecurity experts, the understanding that I have is that usually they are self-taught.
Yes, and they have very big internal motivation, because hacking is fun, defending it's boring, and if you need to defend, create a system that is not hackable. That's much more harder in internally.
All right. So they are very active in learning side, and then they go to defender side, and then they need to be told what to do.
Not always. For example, if you can't actually be effective cybersecurity expert if you don't code, for example, you don't understand how web application works. It's no point to start learning how to hack it. But in case of Windows infrastructure, it's so that if you know how to take over Active Directory, it doesn't help you to defend it. In some technologies, it's so. But yes, the hackers are self-motivated. They just try things like definition of the hacking itself. It means that you try to try not to break in, but try to do something, make the system works for you in somehow. It's not always even related to IT. And if it doesn't work, you try something else. Scientists do the same, actually. It's the same mindset. For example, the hacker mindset, something you can't easily learn. In my lectures, I always give, not always, but I have given some simple like exercise for my students. And to test, do they have hacker mindset or not? I just ask that they will write a program that prints out pin code of this card. That's the task. And less than 5% of the students will do that.
And you can print only one pin code?
I didn't say that.
One page?
Yeah. That's about the hacker mindset. It's different.